Welcome to Infusions of Light, everyone, a podcast that's dedicated to the healing, evolution, and awakening of humanity. And I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Sophia Joy, and I am so incredibly delighted to be with Marguerite Rigliogso today. She is the founding director of Seven Sisters Mystery School. She is also an author of 3 books, one that's coming right up, we're going to be talking about. She, as well, is a channel and a clairvoyant, and she's also been a university professor, both in California and in the UK, and she's also a good friend. So welcome, Marguerite. I'm so delighted that you are here.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a joy to be with you, and I'm so honored to be part of your podcast.
Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and start it off. And Marguerite, can you do an opening invocation for us to really help us settle into sacred space together?
So let's just take a minute here, because a lot of us are coming from multitasking and all that. And I just invite anybody who's watching, if you can, just sit and be with this for now. Even just this moment to just close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And as you do that, just feel the ground beneath your feet. As you continue to breathe, feel the air around you. Feel your feet and your fingertips. And feel your abdomen, and feel the center of Mother Earth, and ask her to receive your grounding, and just feel yourself drop the whole circumference of your abdomen like it's a tree trunk all the way through the layers of the earth to the core, and see the roots of your grounding trunk grasp the golden center of Mother Earth like fingers, and feel that golden light coming all the way up through the many layers of the earth, up through your root and your central channel, and out your crown into your auric field, just filling you and surrounding you with golden light right now. And we're calling on and honoring Mother Earth, Mother Divine, Father Divine, and their emanations of Blessed Mother Mary, the Christed Master Jesus or Yeshua, and the Magdalene in particular, asking them to be with us all, those of us speaking and those of us listening, to help us to really receive activations from this time together. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So here we are. We are currently in a place of a lot of seeming chaos, some pretty massive polarity, divisiveness. At the time of this recording, we are still waiting to hear the results of the presidential election. I'm sure by the time that this recording goes live in terms of the podcast, we'll all know who won the presidential election. But right now, we are in the midst of this confusion and tumult, and again, a lot of polarity. And Marguerite, I'd like to start us off by having you bring in your perspective as to where you perceive that we are right now on the timeline of evolution, taking into consideration all that's happening in the world. Just would love to hear from you, what you have to say in regard to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been quite a year, 2020, and I think that this podcast will remain evergreen on into the future, at least 3 years out beyond 2020, because we are in the time now of the opening into 5th dimensional consciousness by more and more and more people. By that, I mean the opening of our awareness that there are other realms of reality, that not all is what it seems, that there's a lot on the earth plane and beyond that's been happening, some very, very good, some not good at all. And this election is just a pivot moment showing us the extreme polarity. And, as the channeler Elizabeth April has been saying, it's showing us that literally 50% of the US looks at things one way and 50% looks at another way. And what do we do with that? And so what I've been, Melissa, I've been a real warrior for many, many years. I've been a real voice for a real whistleblower And I feel that now that other people are starting to own their material, own their anger, get activated, get active, I can relax. And I've been sort of literally shown in front of my altar by Blessed Mother. She said, "You can put the burden down now." And I'm like, wow, really? Are you kidding? She said, "Yes, you're complete with that phase of your life." I said, "But I'm not really doing enough." And she said, "Well, enough for you means going into a whole different mode of being, which is to be peaceful. You've set yourself, your life up now so that you can be peaceful, emanate that. And there is so much usefulness that that does for others. And that is an invitation to everyone to just become peaceful, become joyful, find the simple and big things in your life that you're grateful for, emanate that out, get off the media trek, go into your cocoon. It is important to go into your cocoon. And from that point, just radiate out Sacred Heart, Blessed Heart energies. And one thing that was really dramatic for me was that last night, in the early dark time of the evening, I was sitting in front of the altar, and what I started receiving was, it was a kind of a rarefied experience where I felt everyone in their polarities and in their anger positions. And because all that was handled, like everyone is handling their own stuff, I was able to ride on it like oil that was coming to the surface, and then like a phoenix that was coming out of it. And I was able to totally transcend the duality. And that's the first time, believe you me, in Marguerite's life that she has ever done that. Okay, hello, we're just her little comedy beings who like to insert every once in a while Gloria and Sylvia. I mean, it was weird that I could be at that unity consciousness. And it is not the unification of opposites. It's the holding of opposites in love. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you've already been there. It took me a little while to kind of catch up with where you've been for quite a while, but there I was. And so I have this sort of fresh experience. And it was like, I didn't have to blame any one side or the other, one person or the other. There's no blame. There's no real right or wrong. It's the only right is love. And the only right is unconditional acceptance of people and what is, and working from the place of love, even as unreasonable as people might be on whatever side of the argument. So that's the dramatic way that I could begin our conversation today. And I'm sure you have a lot to respond to with that.
Well, thank you so much. And you so importantly hit many, many, many important points with what you just said. And, for me, just to reflect back in regard to my perspective, which is very, very similar to yours, when there is a shift change, and this is true in science, this is true on multiple levels of material matter, energetic matter, when there is a shift, inevitably we go through chaos first. And that could be all the way from thermodynamics to emotional shifts. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through massive emotional shifts where it looks very chaotic and then it comes out more stable, more evolved. Same thing with many, many of my students and patients that I've worked with. We go through chaos first. The same thing is happening in humanity. And my sense of it right now is that a lot of people who either their voice have been suppressed or they haven't quite been in touch with their emotions, it's coming to the surface. And what's coming out is their specific perspective. But when we look at it from a whole, it's like a purging. It's a detoxification of the throat chakra and everything that's connected to that. And this piece that you brought in about the polarities, the duality, and actually shifting into this, what I'll call the third, I've been really sitting with. And I actually just listened to a friend's podcast the other day, and he was talking about how Jung talked a lot about the dance of polarities, and that when we can actually hold the polarities, and it could be, well, this is what this person is saying and this is what that person is saying, and so instead of actually trying to figure out the answer from the ego mind, can we just sit with both of them? Then a third arises, which is that unity consciousness that you were talking about. Exactly. And I know that you just wrote in your blog a few weeks ago the topic about moving from being right to being love. And whenever I read that, I was like, oh, yes, sister, that's so true. And I'm wondering, which is very connected to what we're already talking about, but I'm wondering if you could give your perspective in regard to how do we do that?
Yeah.
What wisdom do you have to share with our audience today?
It's really critical. One thing I wanted to bring forth, and I think you will really appreciate this is you and I, for the past decade, have been going through our dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And what that means is on the personal level and on the karmic level. You and I have looked at how all of what's gone on in our lives in terms of emotional upheaval connects with our past life transgressions.
Mm-hmm.
We have gone there. And because we've done that, the door is now open for us to go into these more rarefied, beatific, peaceful states, more of the unity and the holding of the two in equality. And there were spiritual teachers like Matt Kahn and others who had said, that's what's happening. And, when I was sitting like a broken wreck alone in my apartment, feeling pathetic, lonely, humiliated, like, oh my God, I'm a spiritual teacher. How could I be this low? It didn't feel good. And it's like, well, maybe that prophecy is right. Maybe it isn't right. I don't know. Maybe I'm just messed up and this is going to last forever. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened. And it was like, boom. I realized I started seeing what was happening on the psychic level and what this was meaning on the many different levels. And I was like, wow, this thing is happening. And I don't know if even maybe you and I had a conversation or others of us have said, oh my gosh, this is the prophesied time.
Mm-hmm.
It's no joke. We are here. We have done the work. Now we're watching everybody else implode, go through their dark nights of the soul. And that's looking all different for all different people. It's looking very personal. It's looking like personal illness. It's looking like financial disaster. It's looking like breakups of relationships. It's looking like, other kinds of tragedies and difficult things, sometimes 4 piled on for each person, so that they will go through the sieve. And that's what I think is happening. It's looking chaotic. It's looking really personal. It's also looking collective, like it's political. But really what it is it's a consciousness awakening. And I think that the more we can understand that this may look one way, but it actually is a different thing, it's an awakening, I think we will be able to hold on a little bit better. Now, those who are suddenly entering their dark night of the soul like never before with whatever crises are happening, the point is that there are the resources there. And the degree to which people can go into that dark night and get their supports and say, what is the pain that this is bringing up? What is the karma that this is bringing up? What are the lifelong patterns that this is bringing up? How does this connect to what I've put out there in other lifetimes? The more you can do that, the more you can get your health, your healing supports, physical, emotional, spiritual, the more you will be able to ride through this and do what you need to do. I would say even more quickly, perhaps, than if you try to hold it off. Like I think mine lasted kind of 10 years because I was like, no, no, I'm not feeling bad. I'm not feeling lonely. I'm fine and I'm fine. And it's like I wasn't fine, and it just kept, extending it out, right? Instead of deeply, deeply going into it, which I know you did, and I thought you were pretty courageous, at times. So I think I'm sorry, but people are just going to, if you're suffering right now, the more you deeply go into it and look at what this means for your soul, not just in this lifetime, but other lifetimes. And what is the grist for your mill? What needs to be healed? What self-love do you need to come up with? Because it's all about self-love, and then it's about love of others. What do you need to do in your life? What changes do you need to make to get to that cleared, peaceful place? You know, what cataclysms do you need to get out of a relationship? Do you need to move? Find your supports and allow them to help you through that process without resisting the change that is upon you. That's what I would say is the main way that people can work with this, you know, on the personal, emotional level. And then on the spiritual level, it's like, get spiritual. You know, if you weren't before, get spiritual now. Find out what works for you. You all have a little inkling, and some of you are probably well on that road, right? You already know who your guides are, who your main masters are. Call on them, ask them to help, ask them for the guidance, ask them for the intuition, ask them for the healing salve, you know, in the middle of the night, whatever it is. That would be my recommendation, Melissa. What do you think about that?
Hallelujah, sister. That's my response. And again, there's so many things that you said that resonated with my perspective and my truth and what I've walked through, and how I'm being a support for others now, and how you're being a support for others now. And I think that the thing that I just want to say for those of you who are listening, for those of you who are beginning the process of the dark night of the soul, or maybe you are well into that process, or maybe you don't even understand exactly what that means and you're confused and anxious and stressed, this is what I want to say. This is a natural, organic process. Every single one of us in our own way is going to be asked to be stripped of that which no longer serves. It's like when Jesus said, those who are like a child will enter the kingdom of heaven. And I remember going in my own dark night of the soul and finally giving, surrendering on my knees, saying, okay, what needs to happen? How do I need to surrender? How do I even do that? And one thing at a time has been shown to me, oh, this old perspective, or this belief that doesn't serve, that says that you're not good enough, or this voice that says that you're not worthy of love, or this voice that says that you'll never manifest your soul's destiny, whatever that is, we all have these voices deep, deep, deep in our psyche that is mirrored to us by our external reality, by perhaps a dysfunctional relationship or a dysfunctional job or whatever that is. So when we can see the external as representations of our subconscious and the voices that no longer, that no longer serve us, that are there perhaps for a reason, maybe there was a trauma that occurred that this voice tried to protect you in some way, but actually in adult consciousness or as an adult is no longer serving you. That's really what the dark night of the soul really is all about.
Yeah.
And bringing in the past life, clearing the past life energy, it's all connected to the psyche of the soul, what we're telling ourselves. Are we able to connect to that love, to that self-love? Because when we can connect to the divine love, the love of our higher self, bring in that self-love, that's when everything changes, because then we're a sovereign being. We can connect to our source connection, and then we offer that to the world, and the world offers it back to us. So I am so there with you in terms of what you said. And also, just one other thing I just want to say before we go to the next topic is that there are many, many people out there like you and myself, Marguerite, who have previewed what was going to be happening. And we've gone through the dark night of the soul, and we're ready to support the people who are most resonant with us, our tribe, so to speak, right? And so whether it's me, whether it's Marguerite, whether it's other teachers, look for the people who most resonate to you in your heart, what you most need in your life for your healing, so that you can be free. That's really the bottom line. It's all coming back to our sovereign freedom, moving past any level of slave self and moving into our source connection, our I am presence. That's really what
That,
the Dark Night of the Soul is all about.
yes, that is absolutely what it's all about, coming into your own sense of inner divinity,
Yes.
because that's what awaits you on the other side of this seemingly horrible, chaotic, life change, misery situation.
Absolutely.
And for me, I mean, I got the call to leave California after 20 years. And I was like, what? Okay. Oh my gosh. And I really had to go on faith, but it was I had to give up almost all my earthly belongings and go on a road trip of an unclear destination. And I ended up from California on the East Coast back again with my family in a place I never thought I would live again, or, I mean, and going through that process, there was a grace in that I didn't realize, that allowed me to just somehow alchemically eventually change. I mean, I can't say, wow, I really earned this lightening up. It was more like somehow through grace, incrementally. I don't know when it happened. It was like I was miserable, miserable, miserable. Then I was sort of in an intermediate place. And then lately I've been in a good place. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking back thinking, wow, that's an arc of a whole journey that I went on. And it required the dissolution of my ego, the dissolution of my identity connected with the California spirit tribe or whatever, right? And going into the unknown.
Going
But
into
I
the
had
unknown.
support. I had supports, and I found my supports, and I think that's what people need.
Absolutely. Physical support as well as emotional support and spiritual support, whether that be a person in body or ascended master, Christed being. I know for myself, there is no way that I could have gone through the dark night of the soul if it wasn't for the support of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and many, many other ascended masters who came because I prayed. In some ways, I commanded support now because I was so surrendered. I was like, you gotta support me now. And they came. And when we open to that level of surrender and trust and literally like need, then the spiritual doorways open up in a
Absolutely.
very powerful, powerful way. And just to let you know, we will be actually going into a transmission in a little bit to help everyone connect to this higher dimensional energy of Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. So
Yeah.
on that note, are we going to
Yeah.
say something? Go
Let me
ahead.
just say one thing. For me, it was Mother Mary. And I would be in my bed, literally like curled up like a fetus. And I'd be like, Mother Mary, put me in your womb,
Mm,
or hold me.
mm,
And she would. And night after night, she would come. And she started with the healing on that level. And then it transformed into me having a more adult engagement with her that allowed me then to write my what are essentially two books about her. One is coming out in April, but and to understand her on a whole other level as a master healer, an exorcist, a mentor of others, a being who ascended from human to divine level because of all of her accomplishments over many lifetimes. So as I mature and I heal, my relationship with her is maturing, and I'm able to access her on different levels. But I just needed to buckle down and say, hey, I lost my mother at an early age. I need mothering. That is part of my karmic wound in this lifetime. Please remother me. And she did. So she's available on so many levels. And I know you've had experiences with Yeshua and Magdalene, and many people are having that now. They will help you at whatever level or levels you need. And then your relationship can grow, just like your relationship can grow with your parents or adults in your life, that, later on you have this fully fleshed out, amazing kind of relationship.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, what I'm sensing in here is that we are really stepping both into a higher sense of connection, especially if you're a female, connecting to divine feminine teachers such as you with Mother Mary. I know Mary Magdalene came to me the most through my dark night of the soul and literally helped heal and transform my being, and somatic awakening was born out of that experience. And we are really receiving not only multiple, many thousands, millions even, of divine feminine guides, ascended masters, other beings who are helping us as a humanity, not just for women, but for men too, helping us move into this divine feminine power and connection.
Definitely.
And I'm wondering if you could speak to that even deeper with your connection with Mother Mary, as well as connecting into the womb power and information.
Yeah, because Mother Mary and Magdalene are but emanations of Mother Divine, the great goddess writ large, essentially. And a critical aspect of that great mother is her Holy Womb Chakra. Yes, that the goddess herself, universal goddess, has a Holy Womb aspect or chakra, just as we all do, whatever our gender identity, and especially women because we have the physical womb, but we all have the womb point, the entry point around the navel that is that portal into the other dimensional realm and into Mother Divine's Holy Womb. That desecration and abduction, destruction and rape of the womb is one of the greatest transgressions of the Kali Yuga, this previous epoch that we've been in. And it's encoded in many of our myths where the male gods take over the female gods, or they turn them into inconsequential shrews, or they break them apart into, well, she's the sex goddess, she's the smart goddess, she's the, they divide and conquer, they rape, they take over, they dismiss, they disappear. And that has happened on the cosmic level as well as on the earth level over hundreds and maybe thousands of years, where the feminine information on the Akasha has gone missing. And that has to do with that womb power as the high, holy heart power of manifestation. There's a real strong link between the womb and the heart and the third eye. And that's what's coming back now for us. It's been happening for decades with the goddess movement. And now I'm bringing forth the material that Sri Kaleshwar, a divine saint in India, who's had his samadhi already, he's on the other side, brought forth from the ancient palm leaf manuscripts that Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Mary helped to write, as well as other great masters and rishis, the Saptarishis, the 7 sages of the world. So he collected these special mantras and these pictograms or these yantras that are power-packed tools for people. And so I've been teaching like the consolidated version, what he brought through as these essential Holy Womb Chakra teachings. And this is one avenue and one way to enter the portal again of the Holy Womb of Mother Divine, access it within ourselves because we're holographic replicas and representations of her, and pull through that manifestation energy right through the womb. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, this is a great cosmic thing. And Lisa Renee talks in a breathtaking, very deep esoteric way. She has one of her posts is about the solar Sophia Christ, mm-hmm. and how on very deep internecine levels, this takeover has happened. Like on every level of this time-space continuum, all realities, and the evisceration of the womb and the abduction and the misuse of the feminine, the turning it into the dark feminine, and in a bad way, because there's positive dark and there's negative dark, but we're talking about negative, right? So she's saying that these polarities are reversing, these grids are reversing. Our friend Maria Christina Owl talks about the grids reversing. That's what's happening. Things are that were upside down are getting turned right side up, and we're like, whoa, what is reality now? And that confusion is part of what opens our third eye, our crown, our consciousness, our wombs. that's how I would describe the arising of the sacred feminine as I am presently integrating all the past 30 years of my studies and experiences in this regard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in that place of this awakening, this reversal of polarity, the feminine coming on board more, and how that is underlying a foundation that's not always being seen as to what's moving us forward. And again, remember, when we go from one state to another state, it can look chaotic, it can be confusing, it can bring up a lot of emotions. So I absolutely agree that this arising up of this divine feminine wisdom, the reversing of the grids, the information that's coming down, the information that's coming up from the earth, is actually shifting humanity. And humanity is cracking open, making
Absolutely.
choices. Are we going to say yes to actually looking at all of these things that are coming up? It might not feel good, but are we going to say yes to it and keep on moving forward?
Yeah.
And that's really the question that all of us are being asked, especially those who are in that deep state of anxiety, confusion, fear.
Yeah. And it's really Western women who have heralded this through the women's spirituality movements, because the goddess has been alive in cultures for years and years and years, but a lot of those indigenous cultures have either been silenced or, in India, what's happening is a kind of a high-tech layover over that amazing ancient feminine knowledge that they have. And goodness forbid, I mean, I hope they keep that knowledge going, but it's the Western women who are cracking it open. And another harbinger of the awakening has been the Me Too movement, because that started poking at all the many ways that the womb has been transgressed upon and how widespread this is. And then we can go deeper and look at all of the sexual abuse, which is everywhere. We know as teachers and practitioners what a high percentage of people in a room will have this abuse. It's a net. It is a net of the controllers. And so the Me Too movement started saying, hey, Hollywood, this, that, da, da, da. That's the tip of the iceberg. We're going to, the Jeffrey Epstein and all that, we're going to keep going down and down and down the layers into the caverns. And that scariness and those revelations are what wakes people up. I know it's what woke me up 20 years ago when I started looking at this scary stuff. It took me a lot of years to metabolize. But there's a lot of revelations happening right now. And it all comes down to the out of control patriarchal entities preying on the womb. Bottom line. And that's what's changing now. And that's what's going to continue to change. And I think that the Magdalene movement was another big part of this, and the Mother Mary movement that is being heralded now. I think that the book that I have coming out, which is called The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, and the subtitle is Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births, that is going to be the lid opener on this topic of virgin birth being a real thing and what womb power really is for women, not just from the past, but in the present and into the future. And I think that, Mary Magdalene has had her day. She's had her opening, her unveiling. I believe this is going to mark the unveiling of the Mother Mary movement. And we're going to see how even unbelievably tremendous, because she was the highest female ever to have walked the planet. And Sri Kaleshwar says she was the highest person ever to have walked the planet, bar none, even her son Jesus. So the second book that I'm writing and the course that I've already taught that's available on demand on my Seven Sisters Mystery School site is the Mother Mary Mystery Teachings. That is essentially book 2. And that's where I start getting into Mary, not just as a divine birth priestess, but all of the other things that I alluded to earlier, where she was really the head of the church after Jesus left. She was the one.
Wow.
And Magdalene was her student. Magdalene was her student. Magdalene was her mentee, so we're going to be writing that relationship as well to re-honor the mother and the senior woman.
Mm.
You know, Magdalene went first because she was the more accessible one for women. She had a connection to her sexuality. The connection with Mary, Mother Mary, and the sexuality was more obscured, and she had been reprogrammed and captured and diminished. So nobody wanted to touch her. But now, as I'm opening this material, looking at the Infancy Gospel of James, that repressed gospel of hers, where all of her life, her early life, including her own divine birth by Anne, is laid out. And all the codes, I'm able to dissect all of the codes because I've done all this research into divine birth in the ancient Mediterranean world through my previous 2 books. I'm able to discern, oh my goodness, she was doing that. Oh my gosh, look at what they were doing. Wow, they did it in a group. You know, her divine birth conception was done in a group of 8 women from the temple. And her Aunt Elizabeth was one of the women who gave birth to John the Baptist, you know. So these are all the things that are going to be coming out on this first layer when the book comes out in April 2021. And then either later that year or the next year when the second book is going to come out, it really is uncloaking Mother Mary and allowing her to be available for women. Because let me tell you, the higher you can see the master, the more you can see the master in their high light and their full panoply of who they are, the more you're initiating into that. That's why it's really important to see these beings in a high way, to see the cosmic Christ, to see the mystical Magdalene, to see the resplendent Mother Mary, who is far more than she has been diminished to be. Mm-hmm. We initiate into their levels, and that's what's happening now.
Wow, hallelujah for that. That's so potent and powerful and significant, especially looking at where we are right now, at the precipice of where we are. Let's go ahead and switch, going deeper, going into the vibration of Mother Mary, going into the vibration of Mary Magdalene, opening into a transmission state. So just a few minutes for both of us, for you and for me, for you to connect into the transmission of Mother Mary. We're going to connect into the transmission of Mary Magdalene, whatever needs to be brought in to this time. And so why don't we just go ahead and be quiet? And when you're ready, Marguerite, I just invite you to open to that transmission. And then whenever you're complete, I'll step in with the transmission with Mary Magdalene.
Great. And I want to say that, you know, this is something that's open to anyone who wants to really get there and do it. It's not that we're necessarily special. It's just that we've set ourselves up to be able to be open for this, but they're available for anyone. And many people are already having these experiences, correct? So we're just 2 representatives of part of their fractal, right? Yeah. And it's getting filtered through our own filters and our gifts, you know, perhaps even limitations, what have you. But, you know, I'm just honored to be able to do it.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. What I'm receiving is the first message is just the reiteration that no one owns the masters. And they are available to all in a much larger, broader, deeper way than we have been led to believe by certain systems but there is such a richness that's available for anybody who wishes to tap into them. Among them, Mother Mary, Magdalene, Jesus, and many others. The lineage of Mother Mary offers a particular vibration that is a very high one that will allow people to experience the divine in a very illuminated way. And there's a level of purity there if you are really able to tune into them in their true light body power that can transcend any of the limiting programs that have been put on them, on us, perhaps, if I'm speaking as Mother Mary, but I'm more receiving the information from her. It's not like I speak as her. That's what's happening here. I'm more just receiving the information and just delivering it that way. So that's how I would like to start.
So are you complete?
Yes.
Thank you. Opening the space now to the vibration, the holy vibration of Mary Magdalene. And feeling her connecting into my higher self consciousness and coming into speaking as I. Whenever she says I, she was speaking through me. So here we go. I am delighted that my teacher, Mother Mary, is being seen more fully for who she was and who she is. We lived in a very sacred time among many sacred people who were living in the high light. Much of what was happening in that time has been buried, has been hidden, and we're so delighted that it is coming out now in this time. In these times, you have these two polarities. Many polarities have already been talked about, but I want to bring awareness to these two polarities of this high vibrational, evolutionary, healing vibration that has been building on this planet more and more every year since the 1980s. And it is, and will continue to have multiple climactic peaks as this energy keeps continuing to come in on higher and higher waves of vibration. And we invite you from this perspective of this high vibration to see the chaos of the other polarity as it is. We'll call this other polarity the ego polarity. The polarity of I'm right, you're wrong. The polarity of us versus them. The polarity of seeing other beings, other people as less than or stupid or ignorant. On either side of the political divide. The light, its job is to penetrate the ego, to penetrate the ego voices of better than and less than, so that you can actually get down and allow this light, this specifically, this enlivening, awakening diamond light of Christ consciousness, of where we stand, where we are holding space for, is moving into the ego and allowing the ego to literally fall apart. For some people, they will not want to do this. For some people, they will choose to leave before doing this. For some people, they will continue to hold on to the sides of the river because they are afraid until it gets so bad that they will let go. Many, many, many people are already in the middle of the river. Many people are understanding that when these two polarities come together, that you lift above and see from higher perspective, not better than, higher perspective of your I am consciousness, your avatar consciousness, your source connection, finding the divine here inside as well as outside, and unified awareness of it all, including the polarities, including the fact that humanity is one. So just as what has been said, I want to affirm with every level of awareness that you can open to, we are here for you during this time. Call us out by name. The ones who you most resonate with, whether that's of the Christ family or another tradition, we are here. Multiple levels of higher dimensional guides. Many, not even from this planet, are here holding this space as humanity will continue to move through these birthing pains into realizing your divinity. And so it is.
What I receive from Mother Mary is just the reminder that also what this is all about. The goal and the means is love. And that is the whole point of it all.
Mm-hmm.
That is what allows you to hold the polarities in that kind of dynamic tension. The image is the yin yang. And it's the heart love, the womb love, that is what allows you to come to the transcendent place or the deeper place, whatever metaphor you wish to use, as well as maintain that place, as well as go forward from that place in a productive way. It's one thing to get to that place. It's another thing to stay at that place. And it's another thing to move forward with that grace from that place in a world that is continuing in polarity, duality, and that it may be rather challenging to walk among that, almost like, in a sense, being in a minefield. But the more you can keep coming back to love, love of self, and finding where is the love in the person who's seeming to be unreasonable, and where and how can I be in presence of love for this person, and in surrender also around when things may not go your way, despite the fact that you are in the love space, then you're starting to walk in the Garden of Eden again. Then you're starting to move forward into the new earth, as many of us are talking about. You're moving into the fifth dimensional reality and way of being, while still being in the three-dimensional earth plane, where there's earth and soil and the five elements and buildings and structures. And so this is going to be an adventure. For everyone. And what I get from Mother Mary is that even as high as they were, being in the earth plane at that time had its challenges. You know, they were confronted with things, jealousies and ego issues of who's the leader, who isn't the leader, and dynamics and personality quirks that came with the beings, you know. And so it took a tremendous amount of patience, compassion, and coming back again and again and again to that calm, clear, centered, transcended space regarding any matter that was occurring or that was being brought forth to any of us, in order to keep moving forward with grace. And you can imagine moving through a crucifixion scenario with that. So there is nothing more poignant than a mother losing their child. That is the greatest initiation on earth into the hell realms. And so, you know, Mother Mary went through that, and she had to continue to come to the very highest place and hold that light steadily for us, so that we can now, in our pettier situations, try to approach that light and bring it in to our lives when we're getting triggered off. And these are tools, these are templates, these are visions. They hold up those images for us to as road posts, okay, guideposts for us to keep going back to again and again, those of us who are refining our personalities now and really trying to move into this refined human, you know, less and less reactive, less and less ego-driven type of personality, who is more and more infused, suffused, and permeated with their soul's light.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So let's go ahead and close our time together with a closing invocation, giving immense and powerful gratitude for Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, the entire Christ family, Divine Mother, Divine Father, all that is God, Goddess, oneness, that enlivens us and gives us this life, this breath, past, present, and future. Thank you for showing us the way. Thank you for being a beacon in our life, no matter how confusing or frustrating or dark it may get. Thank you for leading us. And with whatever level in your being that you say yes to being connected with this light, both outside and inside, your higher self, your source connection, I invite you just to feel that yes in your being right now. Yes. I commit to being led by my higher self. I commit to being supported by the ascended masters that most resonate with me, that are the law of love and the law of one. I commit to opening to this guidance, connecting me into my source connection. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Marguerite. What a beautiful, beautiful conversation. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I just feel that as well. Thank you so much for having me here, my dear.
You're so welcome. And so, as we come to a place of completion, is there anything that you have coming up that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I would like to say, if you would like to experience more of what I'm talking about regarding either tapping into the Holy Womb or tapping into Mother Mary in her fullness, I do have the 2 courses available on the Seven Sisters Mystery School website. And one is the Holy Womb Chakra Teachings, and the other one is the Mother Mary Mystery Teachings. And I will soon be having the Divine Birth Teachings audio series that reprises some earlier lectures that expand the understanding of divine birth into all of ancient Greece and serve as a kind of a foundation for those who want to go into my book coming out next year, the Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, with a bit more grounding into all that. So I would just say, come to the Seven Sisters Mystery School site. And I continue to work with people one-on-one, as do you. So if people are feeling resonance with my energy, they can book a session with me. And thank you so much for allowing me to bring that presence that as well.
Absolutely, of course. So delighted. So we will be back next month with celebrating Christmas in a non-traditional way. Next month, there'll be a live activation called Christ Consciousness and Your Source Connection. There'll be a live activation. And of course, that will be recorded and that will go on the podcast. And just on that note, as we now move into 2021, big announcement. If you haven't already heard, Sophia Healing Academy is happening. It is going to be launched early part of 2021. And we're starting that launch with a 21-day meditation called Break Free, to really help us break free from what is holding us back of really being who we are, connecting to our source connection. And that is going to be a by donation meditation. And there's a lot more coming down the pike. So thank you so much for your presence with us today, for taking this information in a way that resonates for you. And we look forward to having you back next month, whenever that is in the future. Many blessings.
Thank you. Blessings.
Much love, everyone. Thank you again, Marguerite.
You're welcome. Thank you.